Welcome to the Monday, November 25th, 2019 meeting of the Longmeadow School Committee. This meeting is being recorded, aired live on LCTV, and live streamed on longmeadow.org. It is a legal requirement that anyone recording the meeting disclose that they are doing so. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There is no correspondence. We have the School Committee Student Advisory Council tonight, and they have some updates for us.
So I'm just going to begin by talking a little bit about the parking lot situation. So I reached out to Glenn to talk about his plan from last year, and he was kind of the person who spearheaded this entire project. So the basic premise of his plan was kind of separating the line that goes into the parking lot, the pickup and drop-off line, by cutting the curb so that cars can make a U-turn there, and then using the line that everyone currently uses to exit the parking lot as an entrance just for the people who are, just for students and teachers who are using the parking lot. So I understand that last year the school committee wanted like a pretty low-cost solution, and this proposal would involve both cutting the curb and putting up a barrier. So I think going forward we agreed to meet once every 2 weeks to try to find like a more cost-effective solution while still reducing the congestion in the parking lot.
So we have the suggestion box out for a month now, I guess, and a lot of the suggestions are not we can't do anything about them, but one of the it's mostly complaints, but one of the only suggestions / complaints that we can do something about is this issue of tissues and how teachers have to buy their own tissues. So after speaking with a few teachers, I've come to a few estimates / conclusions on the issue. On average, teachers go through one tissue box every month or so about 7 a year, although it is more for, it's a wide range. In terms of wipes, there are some teachers who aren't very diligent with using them, but classrooms are generally using about 2.5 rolls a year. So the reason I got this data was I was going to give a price, but I didn't do this in time. So I don't have a price to present for how much it would be to sponsor this as like a line budget item or something. But when I was talking with teachers, like this is and students, it's just generally an issue that has even bothered me before. Like an anecdote from freshman year history presentation I did on North Korea, and it had to be displayed on this on a box. Now the teacher assumed that I would use a tissue box, and this was like kind of his way of getting a bunch of tissue boxes at the beginning of the year, was by making us do this presentation and glue all the sides of the box on this box. But I actually found some other box, and I couldn't get a grade until I actually brought in a tissue box along with my project. So it's always just an ongoing thing of like teachers trying to get these tissue boxes. Another teacher I've known, and other teachers I know do this, they offer extra points if you bring in a tissue box or like a homework pass or something like that, which just has always seemed odd to me. It's just, when a class is out of tissues, students, they can't go to the bathroom to get tissues. We don't have any there. We have like, what are they called? The blow air blowers for your hands. So the teachers are always taxed with buying tissues. On the other hand, teachers also have like expressed concern that if the tissues were bought by the school, they would be low quality. So some teachers even told me that even if the school were to provide tissues or pay for tissues, like they would still buy them themselves because they'd be low quality. So like when deciding how to fix this issue, I feel like that's a concern that should be kept in mind. But I think if I can get a price, I can send that in with Norman on a future meeting. Yeah, and then the other community news / club news is the Jet Jotter, our high school newspaper, which came out last Monday. Overall, the quality of the paper has like increased, as you can see with the 4 color pages we have. The response from student, staff, and Longmeadow citizens has been generally good. We distributed to all the schools and Longmeadow businesses that allow it last week as well, libraries, the public community house, and all the public houses. And we're planning to release another shorter 8-page paper before December break.
Hi everyone, my name is Tommy Lee and I'm a junior here at Long Meadow High School, and I'll be presenting about some upcoming community events that are occurring in the next few days. So the first one is the fall concert, which is for non-addition groups such as La Capella, Vox, concert band, etc. It costs $5 for admission, and the concert begins at 7 p.m. on Tuesday night, November 26th. The second event is the Stroll for Strength, which is a race or walk that will start at 1 in the afternoon on November 27th, and registration for the race starts at 11:30. Stroll for Strength is a Thanksgiving road race that honors those who were close in the community but have unfortunately passed away. It costs $10 to either run the 5K or participate in the 1-mile walk, and proceeds will go to scholarships and foundations including Dana-Farber Cancer Research, Springfield Boys and Girls Club, the Breast Cancer Awareness, Suicide Prevention, and the Wounded Warriors Project. The route will be through the streets of Long Meadow, and the police will assist in directing the race. And another event that will be occurring on the same day is the Powder Puff event, which will be held at 11:30 at the stadium field. It is where girls in the senior class play two-hand touch football, and this year's teams are the Cops and Robbers, and we'll just have to see whether the good guys or the bad guys win. I'll also be talking about the senior class play, which was back to the 80s and was shown last week on Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday morning. In total, the senior class generated $9,900 in revenue from ticket sales and concessions, and it is unclear as of now how much was brought in from advertising as well as the exact expenses of the play. The week leading up to it, play rehearsal was held from 3 to 9 every day, and all that practice paid off because the play received a lot of positive feedback, and the students felt that it was a fun and very enjoyable experience to bond over.
Then some final sports news. Boys soccer became the state champions for the first time in LHS history on Saturday after beating Needham 2-0.
Awesome. Does anybody have any questions for our students? Gianna?
So about the tissue issue or project.
The tissue issue.
The
Tissue issue.
And that goes along with what I was about to say is, have y'all thought about working with the business, is there a business club? Or the business classes?
Some type of business club.
You know,
Managers.
doing some kind of outreach to, you know, Target makes their own, Costco makes their own, Big Y makes their own, seeing if there's a way to, they could either donate them or form a partnership with the school or Long Meadow Public Schools. You know, it's just takes like letter writing and thinking about.
Would it be funded by them? Where would we get the funding for that?
So yes, you would be working with them to see if they would possibly either donate tissues in partnership with the high school or with Long Meadow Public Schools. So yeah, you'd be putting together like a little outreach campaign, the tissue issue at Long Meadow High School, and asking if they would be willing to either, again, donate the product since they make their own, or, you know, maybe talk about discounted pricing. Or
Yeah, I think we wouldn't want the teachers to feel they have to pay out of pocket for those supplies, and I think, Maxim, if you wanted to connect with Mr. Mazur or I at some point this week, we can kind of troubleshoot on that as well, you know, perhaps building on what Ms. Allentuck said as well. So, yeah, we're happy to work with you on that.
Okay.
We're working with the PAC to see if
Yeah.
parents want to fund drive
Yeah,
around.
right. Yeah. No doubt.
Anybody else? Yes, Kevin.
So, Max, how, you said there's going to be another edition of the Jet Jotter for December, but in general, like, how often does it come out?
So this one I'm managing editor on the paper. So we originally planned for it to come out late October, but it ended up coming out early November. So it depends on how students how much they participate, and I mean it takes like a small army to write it and edit it, a few all-nighters, a lot of coffee, a lot of pizza. So Armin here does business managing for us, so there's ads. It's a lot of work.
Mhm.
We're right now seeing if we can get some sort of donation from parents, so we would bring it, or Long Meadow citizens and alumni, that we can bring it to their house on the days it's released, because we have a bit of a problem with it coming home. But in terms of how we want it to come out, about every month and a half. This one is going to be, if you look on the date, it was last Monday, so this is coming out we want Thursday or Friday before December break, so that's a little bit more than a month. So that's why we decided to make it shorter, 8 pages instead of 12 pages, how it usually is. We're also switching providers for printing, so we're going to be working on that, but it's going to be shorter. We're going to cut the centerfold, cut 1 page of campus news, the game page, and really focus on opinions and features in this next edition. Try to get just quality over quantity, because I feel like before we had a lot of, we were just trying to get them out and we didn't have enough time to edit or check sources and so on. So yeah, after this one, after December, we're thinking early February, sometime around Valentine's Day, and so we're skipping January, so about a month and a half.
Great, yeah, thank you for all your hard work on that. Yeah, and the big question is, Tommy, are you running in the race?
Yes, I'll be participating in the race.
Okay, so what time do people need to shoot for if they want to beat you?
I'm not sure. Let's say 16:30
Okay.
in the 5K.
Gauntlet has been laid.
That's for the whole, that's not just for 1 mile. That's the whole thing?
In the 5K, yeah.
Golf cart?
I don't know if I could drive that fast. Awesome. Anybody else? Yeah,
I have a
Susan.
question, just going back, and not for the students, actually, more for Dr. O'Shea and Mr. Dunkerley. Just, I'm sorry that you had to, wait for a grade because you didn't bring a tissue box.
It wasn't that bad.
But I just wonder what the response would be from administration
Yeah,
on something of that nature.
I mean, I think we want to get to a place where we're delinking grades to those types of sort of student behaviors, or, certainly we want students to be good school citizens, and if families can donate tissues, we're always interested in receiving them, but I think we really wouldn't want to tie those into grades specifically. So we can certainly have more conversations about that as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Thank you all for doing
Thanks.
everything that you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, just kudos on the paper. It's
Yeah,
one of the
it's
best
great. Thanks for bringing it.
editions I've seen. It's always been a great paper, but it's meaty and a lot of really, you guys tackled some real journalistic issues. So
We went to a conference last year that was partially, in large part, funded by the school, so that really helped us. Actually, all 3 of us went. So the new design, everything, that's
Yeah.
thanks to that. It was in New York, and it was really nice.
Well done. Yeah.
Thank you. Right, we have minutes for approval.
Thank you, guys.
School committee approved minutes of November 12th, 2019 school committee meeting as presented.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Call for vote. All in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? We have majority. Visitor comments. State name at the microphone, please. All remarks should pertain to the powers that are bestowed upon this board.
Stephen Morantz, 117 Rugby Road. First of all, I'd like to say I am really impressed by the student presentation here, specifically where the gentleman talked about checking their sources for the newspaper. I mean, that's really, that's what we want of our national media. I thought it was very impressive, and the fact that the boys soccer team actually won the state championship, nice to beat someone from the eastern part of the state. I'm here tonight for a couple of reasons, but first to thank the school committee for supporting the Board of Selectmen's letter to our Congressman, Richard Neal, saying that the site of the metering station, about a third of a mile from Wolf Swamp School and in residential neighborhood, it's just not the place to put this. And on behalf of the Long Meadow Pipeline Awareness Group and citizens who live in that neck of the woods and all residents of Long Meadow, we thank you for doing that because it's significant. And one of the reasons it's significant is we'll get a firm time, but Representative Neal is holding a press conference near Wolf Swamp School on December 3rd. It's either going to be 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. His office has not gotten back to say what time it is, but because of the response of the community, he's not going to send letters to FERC without the community saying, we want you to do this. And so as a result of the Board of Selectmen, the school committee, the planning board, the Board of Health, may have left someone out in there, he has sent this letter and is holding a press conference of which obviously, hopefully he would like to see that the community who has supported this effort, school committee, Board of Selectmen, et cetera, to show up at this meeting, and hopefully you'll get an email to say exactly what time it is, but it's going to be the morning of December 3rd. So we think that's great. And I'm not sure you have seen this, but I will hand out, this is a letter that, as a response to the community, as his response to the community's response, he sent a letter to FERC, and Melissa Olison, who is an aide to Senator Markey, who happens to live in Long Meadow, also got Senator Markey's office and Senator's Warren office involved, and they both, so we have the two senators and our representatives sending letters to FERC, and I have copies of these in case you have not seen them, saying, you know, whether this is a good idea or a bad idea, it should not be cited where Tennessee Gas and Columbia Gas think this ought to be cited. And so I think that's very significant that we actually have our two senators and our state representative weighing in on this. Whether it makes a difference, we'll find out, but it's all to the good that you guys, the school committee, and the other town boards have come aboard, and I hope we all see you on the, once we get a time, either 9 or 10 o'clock on whatever day December 3rd is, that's the date. So again, thank you very much for your supporting of this, the Board of Selectmen's statement.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is Neil's letter and Lauren and Marcus' letter. Thank you.
Can we have that for our records? Yeah. That's for everybody? Okay. More. Diane, can you enter that into correspondence, please, for next time? Thanks. Okay. Any school committee announcements or recognitions? Yes.
I had a big weekend. I had the pleasure of going to the school play, which I thought was hilarious. Great job by everybody there. And then the boys soccer game against Needham. It was the best opponent they played this year, I think. The team was really, really good, and obviously our boys did better and won 2-0, so it was a great victory. I think Kevin pointed out when I got here that last week we were ranked 14th in the country, but that was before the last two games. So hopefully some of those teams in North Carolina, Indiana, wherever the other ones were, lost, and we'll go up and maybe even be top 10 this year. So great job by the soccer team and the seniors in the school play. The stage, I think, was set up fantastic because my daughter was backstage. Not an actor. But the staging was beautiful, though.
Any other comments? Yes.
Senior play was phenomenal. And then right down the hall from us right now, the Long Meadow High School robotics team is mentoring two teams from Wilbraham Middle School robotics, and then 5 teams from Long Meadow middle schools and elementary schools, and superintendent and I were able to take a walk down there, and it's just fantastic. I know I'm biased, but to see all those kids in there, the high schoolers right down to the elementary students, all participating in STEM is just amazing. So.
Nice. That's awesome.
I concur about the play. The play was awesome. It was great. I didn't get to see the whole thing, but bringing back all those songs was just fabulous, in addition to the enthusiasm. And I actually had the pleasure of one of the middle school teams yesterday. I got to be a panelist for one of those Lego teams. Myself and Mark Strange from the Board of Selectmen. We heard a presentation about an intergenerational community center, which is one of the problems that the groups had to solve a problem related to their community, their local context. And so this group of students did that, and they did it very well, and they're ready for their, I think it's December 7th, they go to the competition, and got to see their Legos and all of that. It was really, really phenomenal. So they were doing a great job.
Yes, Kevin.
So I'll second the kudos to the soccer team. Outstanding year. One thing I want to say about the senior class play, I don't know if everybody knows this, but the culture at the school is really amazing in that how many kids are involved in that play. Kids from every different club, activity, sport. It's really phenomenal. And I just want to recognize the administration, the kids, everybody for making that happen, because it really shows when those kids are up there and everybody's just having a good time. So it's really a wonderful tradition at the school.
I may be biased, but the play was good. My kid was playing in the pit, so.
Music was excellent.
Which was great.
That was
It was the
fantastic.
first year in a long time that they actually played their own music, so it was really good to hear and see. She's not a senior, but they allowed her to play the music with them. So I guess I got 3 more of those coming up. But they're well worth it. And I went to the joke show, so that was even better. The other thing I wanted to say is that we got a letter from Senator Lesser's office just today, this afternoon, for everybody who has been sending letters or pushing us. I got to tell you that we are getting responses from our representatives on the issues that matter to the district. The Proposition 2.5 study did make it into the Student Opportunity Act. I know there's people out there that want to see us push as far as we can. I can say the House leadership did not want this to happen. In fact, we were advised that the House leadership was against this and had pulled it out of the bill itself, and then they put it back in the conference committee between the House and the Senate, and it came out of conference as something that was going to go into the final bill. So usually if House leadership wants something pulled, you're not going to get it, but kudos to Senator Lesser, and I know Senator Comerford and others out there who were pushing because of how vital this is to Western Mass. So thank you, Senator Lesser, and Representative Ash, who I know has been working hard behind the scenes, especially his aide, Robin Frechette, who has been invaluable to us as a point person for getting us a lot of information. So kudos to all of those, and thanks for listening. We're going to have both Senator Lesser and Rep. Ash in January? January. So they'll be coming to a meeting where we'll be able to ask questions and just get a general sense of what they're thinking on educational issues that affect us. Any more announcements or recognitions? All right. Then we have Sergeant Carl Mazzaferro. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
All right. He's going to be talking to us about walking, biking, traffic safety around the schools. Last year, about May, a bunch of us who were running for school committee were invited to a PTO meeting at Blueberry Hill School, which was probably the highlight of our year because Sergeant was given a conversation about these kind of topics, and I can tell you, it probably could have gone on for 2 hours, and it's not going to tonight, but, but it could. But it was awesome, and we all wanted to say thank you for that, but we thought, like, instead of having you have to go to every single school and do that, it'd be better to do it here. I know the one thing we're talking about is like the safe routes to school. Dr. O'Shea and I were just at the MASC meeting down at the Cape, and as soon as I said, where I was from, or she looked at my badge saying I was from Long Meadow, she's like, "Oh, Officer Mazzaferro," and like, you're a rock star down there with the Safe Routes crowd. So it was pretty impressive. And they're like, "Oh, I don't know how much I can tell you that he doesn't already know." And I'm like, "Okay," but
I had the honor last year of being their guest speaker at their annual conference at the State House, so it was nice of them to ask me that. So
nice. So you have the floor, or Marty?
Yeah, so I want to thank Officer Mazzaferro for joining us and the committee for giving us an opportunity to overview this. And I appreciate the opportunity to kind of look at these issues globally, because there's a lot of pieces to the sort of safety puzzle. And I often say that maybe the most important thing we do here in Long Meadow Public Schools is receiving children safely and returning them to their parents safely, you know, and hopefully a lot of great things happen in between, but at the end of the day, that's vitally important, especially in a community like Long Meadow, where there are so many walkers and bikers, and we you know, car lines are an important part of our culture here. So I will certainly turn it over to Carl shortly. I just want to sort of start with a graphical representation of, I think, the partnership that exists across the town to ensure that kids are getting to and from school safely. And had an opportunity to sit in on a meeting of the Traffic Safety Committee recently, and it sort of reconfirmed my sense that you have a lot of folks working collaboratively together to make sure these things happen safely. And as Armin suggested, Carl is a great advocate for pedestrian, bicycle, vehicular safety. So we appreciate the chance to talk about some issues globally, and then we might have an opportunity to zero in on some issues that are of particular importance right now. So, Carl, turn it over to you, and this was a slide he and I put together after we met last week. So
the Traffic and Safety Committee, as the previous slide had on there, it's the committee is, and I hate saying committee because we're not elected officials. You know, but we've thought of other names to try to call it. We have no idea what else to call it. But residents hear committee, and they think it's you know, it has to abide by the open meeting laws and stuff, and you know, that's why we don't like using the word committee. But the Traffic and Safety Group, if you want to call it that, is apprised of myself, Chief Stankiewicz, the DPW Director Mario Mazza, his assistant DPW Director Jeff McAlman, the head engineer, they're still looking for one, and their assistant engineer, Craig Markham. So right now, that's the committee, and the town manager usually participates too when they're able to make it. So, and usually what we do is we put together a list, you know, each month of traffic and safety concerns that residents might call in, and then we go over them or update upcoming projects, anything like that, and we just discuss them and see where we're going to go with them, if there are any merit to some of the complaints that we do get. So that's pretty much what the committee does. We try to meet monthly the best we can. Sometimes it gets difficult with schedules and stuff, but we do try to meet every third Wednesday of each month. So our meetings usually last about an hour. A lot of the stuff might be redundant that we're talking about, but at least we're talking about it. So, you know, it's a good open forum, and you know, we've solved a lot of things in town, traffic and safety issues in town that you know, by having the committee and try to resolve some of the issues. So, any questions about the committee at all, or no? Okay. So some of the things in 2016, July to be exact, I took over as a new position called Traffic and Safety. I don't know if you remember Mike Kirby. Officer Kirby, he had the position prior to myself, and I'm not going to say it was the exact same position that I have. You know, I think the big difference was he was an officer, I'm a supervisor, and Chief Stankiewicz always felt that it was difficult to have an officer to be in charge of that position directing other officers. So he wanted to form this new position, and he got the support of the town, and he put it as a supervisory position. So, you know, right from the get-go, I kind of was able to mold this the way I wanted it. And, you know, one of the big focuses was going to the schools and finding out what the schools needed. And obviously, being a pedestrian and walking community, one of the programs that was brought up very quickly to me was the walking school bus. And actually, Marie Angelidis is the one who really brought it to the forefront. And I kind of wrestled with the walking school bus and how the program was designed, because it really suggests that you have community participation where you have a parent run it. And myself as a parent, I have 13, 10, and a 7-year-old, I said, how can I expect a parent to do this every single month? You know, and and for some reason I said, well, I'm here every day, why don't I just do it? So, and that's sort of how the ball got rolling in the walking school bus. So this is our 3rd year doing the walking school bus. We try to do it monthly at each of the elementary schools. For whatever reason, Mother Nature has not been nice to us lately. But I'm very fortunate that I have 3 phenomenal principals at the elementary school level who, rain, snow, or shine, they're out there and they want to do it. So, and then last year we were fortunate to get our Long Meadow Walk to School days. So the 2nd Thursday in September, and then Arbor Day, the last Friday in April, are Long Meadow Walk to School days. So those are days designated that the entire community, school-wise, gets together and we all walk together. Now, Safe Routes to School has their own walking school bus campaigns, like the Massachusetts Walk to School bus school campaign, which is in October, and then their Winter Walk to School, and then they have a spring one too. But you know, I wanted to do our own here in the community, and so that's. I believe the select board voted on that, and the previous school committee voted on that. So it was nice to get that support for the walking school bus. And the walking school bus does a lot of things. It reduces car line, gets the kids out there walking and exercising. It promotes the camaraderie amongst the children. So it's a fun event for all the kids and the parents. So then the other program we started was the bike rodeo. So the bike rodeo is basically a safety rodeo where we set up kind of like an obstacle course for the children to bring their bikes. And Officer Chip McKelney is one of our bike officers and very experienced at doing fixing bikes and stuff. And he'll take the kids' bikes and he'll fix the chains, he'll fill the tires, find any type of safety defects on them and correct them as much as we can. And the other thing too we get from Safe Routes is we get bicycle helmets. So any child that's in the need for a new bicycle helmet, we give it to them for free. And but it's the program. It's been, I would say, it's somewhat of a success. I don't get the participation I like to see. We probably get about 12 to 18 bicycles there and stuff. But the kids that do it have fun, and it's a good event. So those are 2 of the more of the safety initiatives we've done with the students and stuff. I've done stuff at Blueberry with bike safety. We had, I forget his name, a doctor that came out of Bay State Medical Center. He did a whole helmet safety program
Andy
last
Dobin.
year. Was that?
Andy Dobin.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, Dr. Dobin. And that seemed to be very well received from the community. So that's something I'd like to promote more at all the levels, because I 16 and under, you're supposed to be wearing a bicycle helmet by law, even though there's no monetary fine for it, but there is a law in effect for that. So I try to promote that with the kids when I see them. I see a lot of kids, they leave school with it on, and as they're riding, they're hanging from their handlebars. They get to school, they put them on, so it's I've seen that quite often. So some of the infrastructure projects, Longfellow, they got new sidewalks in. Let me see, our raised crosswalks. So the raised crosswalks were purchased or put in by a grant, Complete Streets grant that we got. And I know the one over here has its own controversies, but they have been effective for the community. There's no question. The speed signs that I have over here, they take live traffic data, so I know how fast cars are approaching that and how fast cars are going over that. And the speed limit over there is 35, and majority of the vehicles are within that 35-mile-an-hour zone. The majority of the cars that are going over are doing about 20. So you do get your vehicles that don't notice it, and they launch it. I call it the ramp. So, but I think it's been effective for the reason why it was put over there. We had an unfortunate fatal pedestrian accident over there, and at the time the select board tasked the traffic and safety committee to find a way to make that crosswalk safer. And all of our research nationwide, putting up raised crosswalks was one of them, and the pedestrian lights over there. So, but again, we were fortunate to get that grant to pay for both of those projects. And I know there's a second grant that Safe Routes to School grant that Blueberry's principal and our DPW worked on that they got. And we're still on the fence of what we're going to do with that grant, if we're going to put raised crosswalks over here by Grassy Gutter and Blueberry. That's going to be up to our new town manager. I know Stephen Crane was very, very supportive of raised crosswalks, but again, that's gonna be up to our new town manager. And again, too, the pedestrian beacon lights, see a lot of them around town now. That's one thing, if we get the money, we're putting them up. I have a set from the end of Converse Street, where the White Road is, that were removed. Mass DOT required those to be put in when Converse Street project was done. That's not a crossing that we wanted, but because the project ended there, they wanted a crosswalk there. And when we finished the White Road, we were allowed to move those per Mass DOT. So those have been removed, and they're gonna be put over by Wolf Swamp Road and Sheffield Crossing, over there for the crossing guard. So anywhere I can get them and put them in for the crossing guards, I'm trying to find places to put those in, just to put visibility. Same thing, if you go over by Wolf Swamp Road School, you'll see the yellow lights for the 20-mile-an-hour speed zone. So those were put over there just to bring more visibility to the school zone over there. Talk about the Blueberry sidewalk, crossing guards. We have 23 full-time crossing guards in town. All their routes are safe routes. They're all positioned in areas where kids are gonna have to cross any type of major intersections. They work 45 minutes in the morning, 45 minutes in the afternoon. So, and they take great pride in each of their posts. So they do a very good job. I have about 11 subs that cover for them when they're out. So they do a very good job. So our crossing post, our busiest one is over by Community House. It's over there, corner over. He probably sees on a nice day, he might get 250, 300 kids over there. So they're all required to keep a rough estimate of how many kids they're crossing, so I can keep sort of a tally, so if I'm ever asked, how many kids are crossing, so. And then probably our second busiest post is Blueberry and Concord. That's another busy post, but then we have some posts that might see 6 kids a day. So, so I have started putting the chief's ear for another post, which is Frank Smith and Wolf Swamp over there, so that's another area. I've asked the chief for right now. I was able to put up more signs, making more visibility for the crosswalk. So that's something I've asked him for his next budget, if we could get the money for another crossing guard for over there. I did a study over there. We have about 8 kids that are crossing over in that post. The chief explained, the reason why that was a post many moons ago, and I guess at some point, like most communities or most neighborhoods, people moved out. There was no more kids crossing over there, so they removed the crossing guards. So, same thing. There used to be crossing guards by the shops. I found a list of all the old crossing posts. Each of the shops' entrance used to have a crossing guard. So at some point they removed those posts. But so like that is on my radar to add a crossing guard over there. I know we had a child hit on a bike over there this past year crossing, and it was no fault of his. It was the motorist was cited, and it was at fault for that. So. But on a nice day, I've asked the principals, and about 75% of the kids do walk or ride their bikes to school, so which helps with car line. So, and our budget's about $147,000 for the crossing guards. So they've been Stephen Crane actually was very generous in his time here for the crossing guards. Every year gave them a raise, which is nice because that never happened before. And we used to have a hard time keeping the crossing guards. So, so that was good. Let me see. Next topic is Carline, and again, Carline. I worked with all the principals from the high school to all the elementary schools, the middle schools. Probably the school that I've had the least Carline issues is Williams Middle. That's about the only school I've had no Carline issues. But all the schools I've worked with the principals, on a good day they'll get the car. I mean, especially Blueberry. The principal does a fantastic job over there. We get the car line done in there in less than sometimes 12, 13 minutes. Cars are moving, just getting the kids moving in and out. So, it comes with the territory of going to school in Long Meadows, car line. So, the lack of school buses, and there's just no other way around it. I do get a lot of phone calls about car line. Not just from parents, but from people coming in through town and stuff, and they see all the cars lined up. I said, I have nowhere else to put them, so it is what it is. So, one thing I was happy to bring back when I took over was Halloween safety. So we go to the elementary schools and we talk with the kids, do's and don'ts in Halloween. I always enjoy that. Just, I think my favorite is when I bring up, you can let your parents eat the candy. You know, they all yelled no. So, but no, I was happy to bring that back and, you know, talk with the kids about that and stuff. So, you know, I think, and I try to explain this to residents. You know, with Mike Kirby, you had for years a police officer in school talking about bicycle safety, pedestrian safety, and then for almost 9 years we had that void at the elementary school level. So you had a whole generation of kids who went through the school system here who didn't get that experience of talking to the officers about safety and stuff. So I think it's good that it's back and we're back in the schools talking about that. So bike and helmet safety, I touched on that already. So what else we got?
So as we move into this slide, I think part of it's great to have the overview, but I think a few committee members have heard from, as I have, some residents on some current issues, and so we thought we'd use this presentation perhaps as a chance to talk about that. One of them regards the sidewalk construction on Knollwood and the timing of that project, and I believe you had some
so
communication.
the select board reached out to me to ask me whether, and I talked to Mario as well, so Mario Mazza, the head of DPW. The question was whether we wanted to do this as soon as possible as the weather broke in the spring, which would be typically around an April timeframe, or would it be better to wait until after school was out, which this year is slated for like June 16th, I think it is around. So, I mean, just off the top of my head, I can't speak for the board. I'm not empowered to do so without talking to you here. You know, I lived through the reconstruction of Longfellow Drive, like when they ripped it up and put in all new plumbing and gas and everything, and it was miserable. And they did it in the summertime. I can't even fathom what it would have been like if they had done it during school being in session. So, just having that experience of living across the street from a school for 13 years, I wouldn't recommend that they do it until after the school. It's a month and a half extra. I've talked to some of the parents that they seem to be in agreement. I haven't heard anybody say that they would want to force it for April. So I guess I'll open it up to comments or questions from anybody. Like, is anybody opposed to saying wait until school's over, or does anybody think they should be doing it in April?
I can just speak real quick on a little bit of this. We did the sidewalks for the community house and a raised crosswalk during the school, and things went smoothly, but there was a lot of putting up safety barriers for the kids, and you know, I felt that was a project that would have been nice to wait while school was out, just with the amount of pedestrians. And I think the thing in Knollwood is going to be the parking. Those parents, you know, they do park on the side of the road. It's now where we're going to put all those cars that are parking. Are we going to add them to the car line? So it was already asked to me, and I said I'd give my recommendation to wait until school is out, just safety aspect wise. We're not putting up fencing and barriers to keep the kids out and stuff. So again, that's just my opinion on it. So.
What exactly is the project going to be? Is it both sides of the street, or
No,
just one that doesn't have a sidewalk yet?
It's the one, yeah. So basically, they're going to have
The far side from the school?
So it's the far side. No, it's the school near side. There's no.
Yeah.
So basically, it's going from the corner of the school, the back corner, down to Norwood Circle.
Yeah, it's going to go from here up.
And right across that really beautiful lawn at the corner of Knollwood and Knollwood Circle.
So.
You did come up with the traffic committee as well, and it seemed that everyone was of the opinion that it would make sense to wait as well. So.
Yeah, I've
But-
seen some pictures of the cars lined up on the street when, you know, drop-off is happening or pickup is happening, and it would seem pretty, disruptive even, to that.
Mhm.
And it's like, where do you displace those cars when that happens? And
Yeah,
I mean-
they're gonna have to be out at the car line. That's the only
Right.
place to put them,
Right,
so.
right.
The one thing I would say, like I was at Wolf Swamp this morning about 8:50 a.m. and Knollwood was empty except for one car.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
they did a
it
pretty
emptied
good
out
job
quickly.
moving them through and getting them
Yeah.
out. You know, like having lived across the street from Center School, like right across the street, Longfellow is blocked
Mhm.
both sides all day long, halfway up the street. So it's a much, I think it's a different kind of situation, but unless I hear somebody else, I would say our recommendation to Marie would be just to hold off till school's out.
My guess is the DPW would prefer that as well.
That was what I talked to Mario, that was what they were leaning towards as well, yes. Yep. But it will get done. I mean, it's not like this is delays,
Mhm.
just best time for everybody.
The other topic relates to Woolworth Street, which, so this is a street that runs really essentially through the Williams, I saw Wilbraham Middle School earlier today, Williams Middle School campus, and it connects Bliss and William Street, and there was at least one resident who has expressed an interest in seeing a gate that is actually in place right where you see the red arrow there, having a gate close off access from Woolworth Street onto the Williams Middle School campus. Again, we did talk to the Traffic Safety Committee about this issue. The feeling, town manager was there, police chief was there, the feeling was that road closure is really the sort of the purview of the select board. But I suspect if this committee had an opinion on that would be important to the select board. So we wanted to let you know that issue was kind of out there as well. And you know, Carl's aware of some of the history on this, but there is a gate there. There was a time when it was closed during school hours, Mr. Mazza may recall, but I think from a public safety point of view, it's important to maintain access to the campus off of Woolworth and maintain the connection between Bliss and Williams via that Woolworth connection. My question was, do we see a lot of traffic? You know, are there a lot of regular vehicles going through that passageway? And I have not heard that is the case, that it isn't regularly used by vehicles to cut from.
They usually go up Linwood.
Yeah, Linwood runs parallel,
Yeah.
so.
And so this weekend I stopped in the parking lot just to see what was going by, and in fact what I saw was the opposite. I saw residents who were living on Woolworth come from Williams
Mhm.
across the campus and then using that entrance to get to their houses.
Mhm.
And I saw that at 7 o'clock, I saw that at 10 o'clock, and I think it was around 2 or 3 o'clock.
Yeah, but it's not so much a cut-through street for non-residency. Obviously, the residents on Woolworth are gonna use it, but like Linwood is.
And I cut through Linwood all the time, so I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
yes.
Linwood's a normal street that they
At an
use.
appropriate speed, I might add.
Yeah.
Quick question
Yeah.
on that. From a safety standpoint, I guess in your opinion, is there's the gates there?
Mhm.
And it seems like, I know we're not allowed to close off the street, but are we allowed to like make suggestions or at least chat about whether those gates should even be there? Because I go through there enough that you can't go in and out. 2 cars can't go.
No.
And bikers they park their bikes
Mhm.
right where all these cars are trying to go in
Yeah.
and out. And those gates, I find it to be a big issue
Yeah,
during the car.
that was brought up at the traffic and safety meeting of removing those gates. So that's something we did discuss. So I know DPW would like to see them removed because every year the issue comes up.
So is that a select board or is that a school issue? The
You know-
gates that are there that are never closed, they're just there? You cannot fit 2 big cars.
Yeah, I don't know where that would fall.
I think if the select board chooses not to cut that street off, then I think operationally, we would be able to, the school committee or the school department would have to make that decision as to whether we take down that fence or not.
Yeah, that's the thing that residents don't, so even though it's a parking lot, and I think Dr. O'Shea mentioned it, that is still Woolworth from Bliss to Williams. Even the parking lot is still actual a public way. So obviously, before the school was put in, that road used to go straight through. They put the parking lot in, but on our town maps, that is still a straight public way going through. And Glenbrook's the same way. If you ever look at a town map, Glenbrook's parking lot is actually a named public way in Long Meadow. I don't know why that is, but so that's where it comes into play, where the select board, because it is a public way, they're the only ones that can authorize a gate to be put in and closed. And again, from my research, that gate was put in back in the 80s. I'm talking to the officers who got on in 88. They remember that gate being there when they got hired back in 88. And Chief Stankiewicz got hired in 82, and he remembers that gate being in there. So it goes back a ways. That gate was put in back then. So, and I don't think they had as much oversight as we do today when it comes to certain projects like that. But
The only thing about Glenbrook is it does have 2 exits. It does have 2, but it has a third that's gated.
yes, yeah.
So I think, you know, that we need to take that into consideration, that street is gated.
Yeah.
But is that a street, is that a public
Wait,
way?
are you talking about the one, the dead end?
Yes. That's, I mean, is it a dead end? Was
Yeah,
that
it's
declared a dead
I
end?
I think that's a dead end. I don't think that street, from maps, I don't think it goes through. I've never noticed that before. I'll have to take a look at that.
No, it doesn't, but, no, I mean, the fence is across, I
Yeah.
don't know
Yeah,
that
it's a dead end.
Take a look at that.
anybody's ever gone in there,
Huh.
but it looks like at one time,
It
it
might
was a
have, yeah.
public way.
Yeah, I'll have
it
to take a
must
look
have
at that. That's,
yeah.
that's, anything for granted. That's
But it has the other 2
Yeah.
entrances, which is, you know, it's unfortunate, quite frankly, that Williams has that, you know, situation of that, you know, that's why hopefully if, you know, things go down the road of maybe a different setup for our middle schools, then maybe we can correct some of
Yeah.
these issues. Fingers
I have a
crossed.
question. Earlier you said Williams does not have you haven't gotten questions about car line issues the way you get in the other schools?
No, I don't.
So why are we trying to fix something that maybe isn't actually broken?
Well, no, it's because we had a resident who called and
Yeah,
wanted the
we had a
gate
resident.
closed.
Okay,
Yeah.
So that's the only reason why this topic has come up about the gate.
okay.
So the gate is, I've been here, I transferred here 11 years ago, and I've only remember that gate ever being opened. So I don't ever remember seeing that gate ever closed. So the topics come up is who has the authority to open and close
Okay.
that gate. That's the only reason why it's come up. So,
Yeah, and being in that car line, I agree with you. The car line there moves pretty fluidly, but
Mhm.
without that gate, I would think it would probably be even better.
yeah.
Usually there's a line to try to get out, and you have to just wait. There's a lines coming in.
Yeah,
So-
is waiting really that bad?
What's that?
Just waiting. Cars have to go slower because they know they're going to hit each other. So I don't think that's necessarily bad either.
And the other nice thing about my crossing guards, they
Drive
do
a
give me a
tank,
lot of
that's your
feedback,
problem.
and my crossing guard that's at Woolworth and Bliss always has positive feedback about the residents coming, you know, the parents coming in and out. You know, he really doesn't have any issues. He doesn't complain at all. If there was an issue there, I know they would come to me and say, you know, we have an issue and this needs to be resolved, so.
Yeah, and from what I understand from the original complaint, it really had not, it wasn't, the request was not to close it at, like, pick up and drop off. It
Mhm.
was to close it during school hours, so that it wasn't used as a cut-through, but, yeah. So that's when I sent it to
No, we can't put up a
people-
sign that
to
says
other
don't
people.
cut through because it's officially still a road. That's the problem, right?
Yeah, it's still, it's technically a public way, yeah.
Well, yeah, and if you think about it, I mean, if there's something, you know, say the police had to respond to
Mhm.
something on Converse Street, and they need to get, but then they need to get to Williams Middle School, or
Mhm.
they need to get somewhere over, like, off of Williams, you know, they would use that, potentially use
Yes,
that to cut
yeah.
through. Or they need to get to Williams Middle,
Mhm.
which is, you know, that's our
Right.
purview.
And now you're driving all the way around.
Exactly, and you
So-
can't, in a public safety situation, as you know, you can't do that.
All right, so if we're asked by the select board for a recommendation, keep it open as a public way? Is that what I'm hearing? Okay, thanks.
Can I just ask one more question
Yeah.
on
Sure,
Knollwood?
anything
Thank
you want.
So in Knollwood, during the town meeting, there was a lot of energy around this, and obviously the sidewalks went in.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of other ideas that were thrown out there. Should we be talking about any of those ideas,
Well,
supporting
what were the
it?
other- I don't know what the other ideas.
Shutting down Knollwood and shutting it down similar to what happens over here off by the high school, where you can't cut through any of those streets. There
I'm
were
not a big-
people that just said that we should have a police presence there and not let anybody park.
Well, the officers do go there. I float them because all of my elementary schools and middle schools, not so much middle school, but the elementary schools all have a parking issue. So I float them from Blueberry to Wolf Swamp to Center, looking, for parking. So I do rotate them. But as for shutting it down like a one-way almost, I look at that puts more of a burden on the residents that live on that street. That's, if the residents on that street want that, and I don't think they're gonna want to, because I don't know how you would even do a one-way on that street, because there's no exit.
Yeah,
I know one at all, because it's a dead end, so, it's not like if you did a one-way like in Grassy Gutter,
Yeah, you can
residents
cut
could
through
come
and
around
get-
and,
yeah.
so. I just don't see how you could do a one-way on Knollwood at all, because there's only one entrance and one exit.
Yeah, and what was thrown out is you have police there and only letting residents in. I mean, there was a
Oh, no,
lot of
that's not-
heated, there was a lot of
Yeah,
talk.
I
because
can
obviously
tell you
we're
staffing wise, we wouldn't do that. So staffing wise, to put an officer there and basically have it like a gated community, it's the same thing with the crossing guards. I did my best to bolster the crossing guard sub list, because when a crossing guard calls out, I have to assign an officer there. And no matter what, so say we only have 3 officers on the road, which is normally what our manpower is during the daytime, now we have 2 officers on the road. And that officer who's covering the crossing post can't leave that crossing post, no matter what. Because God forbid a kid crosses and he's not there. So it's the same thing there. You have an officer that's stationed there, he's gonna be there until the 45 minutes that school gets dismissed. So it comes more down to a staffing issue, so, but.
And the last thing we had was the crosswalk painting, and I guess you had some good information on.
Yeah, so the DPW has explained that there is a list of crosswalks they have not gotten to because of weather. So, and as winter is approaching, they're gonna hold off till spring, because as was explained to us, if they put down the crosswalk paint now, plows are gonna go over and they're just gonna tear it up, and so they're just gonna be holding off until springtime. But their goal is to get all the crosswalks around the schools done and completed. So that was a question that I know Dr. O'Shea asked at our traffic meeting, and but there is a list of them that they have not completed yet, just due to weather.
And they do those every year, right? Those new ones around the schools?
Yeah, they said they do their best to get them
Okay.
to get all the crosswalks done every year, so around the schools. So
I guess that's the key, around the schools. The ones on the extremities, there's a regular cycle that happens to get the other ones painted. Yes, Kevin?
So just following up on the crosswalk issue, so we live on the
Wow.
northern part of town.
Take a chair, big guy.
Not giving him the stage.
By the King Philip Stockade. So our kids would, bike south on Long Meadow Street, following the route that Center School said they should take.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of streets they cross that don't have crosswalks.
Yeah.
Should there be crosswalks where our kids are riding their bikes to elementary school? Like, I was just curious, like,
Yeah.
if I don't think cars are great about recognizing that those actually are crosswalks. And if you're paying
You talking
attention.
about the side streets?
Exactly.
Yeah, like Inglewood or.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right. I mean, at the major intersections,
Yeah.
they are crosswalks,
Yeah.
but at the other ones, it's just it's pavement, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just curious if that's an issue that you've talked about, and if there's.
No, I haven't, but it's great to bring it up, because that's something I will put on my list of, it's something that hasn't come up yet, so.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
looking into it. And
No,
again,
I
I don't
know.
know what the right thing is. I just know my kids were always biking there.
Yep.
And if they got hit there, it's not a crosswalk.
Yeah, but there's still rules of the road, people
Yes,
stopping.
don't hit an
cross.
elementary school kid on a
Well,
bike. Yeah.
just even if it's a jogger running across the road, they're still in the roadway. There's still rules motorists have to abide by.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, Kevin, I agree with you. I don't know what the I don't know what's right or wrong on that. I can tell you when we painted lines like on Greenacre, like it was like a full pitchfork revolt. Like the people were just like, take them out, and they had to sandblast them off. So
Wait,
people get
what?
funny about lines on streets in town. So like I said, I don't know whether it's right or wrong, but yeah.
That was a crosswalk on Green Acre?
They were putting crosswalks and the yellow line down the middle.
I
Yeah.
remember the yellow line
Yeah.
revolt, but I didn't realize it was crosswalks as well.
It was just lines in general, I remember, but
Didn't matter what color.
I don't think so.
The only one other thing I'll say, because I did bring this up whenever we had met at Blueberry too, is we continue to look at what are the best options out there. I still go back to South Hadley. What they're doing in South Hadley is it's better. And I got out of the car last time I was at Mount Holyoke.
Yeah, I went to
and
Mount
looked
Holyoke
at those
after
two.
after we
And
talked.
there's something, whatever they do,
Yeah.
it's better. I don't know. I go through all these towns all around here, and the way they do theirs, and it obviously couldn't be an issue for the plows, and they have lights all through the road. It's awesome. It really makes me slow down. You know, it does. I mean, you really are guarded going through there more than any other one, even the speed bumps here.
Yeah.
So they're really interesting. I think evaluating those and at least having debate within the town is those good options.
I haven't been to South Hadley in a while. What are you talking about?
They light up the entire road, so all the students there at Mount Holyoke, as they cross, there's a button or whatever they're pressing there, and there's two, posts or places where you can press the button, but it lights up the road.
And the crosswalks are
So
LED
like
lights,
we have
almost like a
the
runway.
blinking sign. They have them go straight across the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
It really
Yeah,
makes you like stop. I mean, it really is. It's really nice. Whatever they do, and I don't know. But I mean, it's one of those towns you ride through and you go, oh my goodness, I better slow down. I'd be very guarded about who's crossing the road, and it really is. It's very nice. So I said, hey, let's take a look at these
And
next ones.
After you mentioned to me, Jamie, I did go up to South
Did you?
Hadley.
Awesome.
Yeah, take a look at the way their crosswalks are run and operated. And their beacons are smaller, like they're lower
Yeah.
to the ground than our tall ones. So the question there is did the college pay for that? Did the town of South Hadley? That's so
Yeah.
that's I'm just curious the cost.
I'm sure
difference.
it's probably an expense. It's
Yeah.
probably not a cheap thing, but
Yeah.
if we go to spend them, and we go, hey, William Street and right here in the center of town are places where
Yeah.
people tend to get going a little faster than what they should be.
Yeah.
Me as well. So it'll at least slow that group down and really slow down the traffic pattern where we really want it. It might not be a place where you only have 5 or 10 people crossing. You're not going to spend
Yeah,
probably
somewhere like
that
the
kind of money.
shops, we have a busy crossing pattern.
Yeah, which would
Yeah.
help the town as
Mhm.
well. I mean, by Big Y and all those places where we have school kids crossing,
Yeah.
that's where I would think you would want them. But they're really nice. They're really nice.
And they work well because they're not in a spot where there's a traffic light.
Yeah.
I think that's why those are so useful, because you're not thinking, I'm gonna have to slow down because the light's gonna turn whatever.
Yeah.
It's just a straight stretch of road, so yeah, it works really well.
Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead. I was going to ask if I could ask the sergeant about the high school.
He's here, you can ask him whatever you want.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it had to be on the agenda. So Sergeant, forgive me, I've only been on the school committee for less than a year, but in that time, I've been sitting here and I've heard twice now about the high school, and Armin just mentioned it tonight, the high school parking lot situation. So I didn't know if you all had worked with them before on that, or if Safe Routes could come out and do a safety and walking audit, or
So
how
the-
that
the-
works.
The high school, when the high school was built, my position wasn't created.
Yeah.
But since my position has been created, I have gone up there and worked diligently with a principal up there, and we've changed patterns of putting barrels over here, moving cars around here, the best movements for cars getting into the high school and kids crossing. But when you have a driveway and you have the principal crossing route for the kids, we do have a crossing guard there.
Okay.
But when that's the main route to come in, and it's also the main route for kids to park and cross, there's going to be delays, and we try to do our best for safety wise. That's why we limited to one lane coming in. I think when it was originally they allowed both lanes of traffic to come in, and they put the barrel blocking, and that barrel over the last 3 years has switched spots.
Okay.
Based on recommendations from parents who were engineers and who, so we said, oh, we'll try it and see if it works. But I'm just curious what type of audit, like safety, what you have in
Well, so
mind?
it sounds like there's a plan that was created, and is that something that you've looked at, or?
That was last year, right? So we did look at that, and there was a great expense to doing that plan.
Okay,
Because we brought to traffic and safety, and DPW explained moving the granite curbing it's gonna be a hefty expense.
okay,
Moving that granite curbing and bring the cars around and stuff. We looked at that, our town engineers looked at that.
okay.
They said if that was the original plan when the parking lot was being built, that would've been great. But as of right now, because of all the granite curbing and stuff, they said it would be a big expense moving that and having to have the cars go kind of one way in and one way out for the morning, and that way you don't have the kids walking and going, walking against the traffic and stuff.
So if expense wasn't an issue, would you think that plan
Yes.
would be?
Yep. Our engineers thought it was a very good plan. They looked at it, they liked it. They just said the expense of moving that granite and then widening that parking lot would, they thought it would be very, very costly.
So is there a way to, again, maybe with safety, is there a way to look into a grant?
I don't know if that would meet their grant requirements. I would have to read their grant requirements to see if that would be part of their grant requirements, so.
Okay. So it just seems to me like if money is the only issue in
Mhm.
terms of making it safer,
Mhm.
maybe we should think about getting the money.
So I guess the question though is like, I've never heard anything about safety being the issue there. It's been the length of the line more than the safety being the issue.
Oh, I thought it was safety.
No, there is
it
a
both?
safety aspect there, just,
Because the kids are crossing over
yeah,
that
the
walking
kids are
lane?
crossing and you got cars and,
Okay.
I mean, really, if we did that type of project, we could eliminate the crossing guard there. I mean, that's the main purpose of that crossing guard, is to make sure the kids are getting, stopping traffic and getting the kids across the road. But there is that safety element there. If there wasn't a crossing guard, it definitely would be.
If there wasn't, okay.
Yeah, but she does a good job controlling
And
traffic.
the other issue I think we have there is parents not listening to the crossing guard and
Yeah.
pulling all the way up, which would let another 10, 20 cars go at a time.
Yeah, that.
So I would say, anybody listening out there, pull all the way up, please.
Yeah. There are those cases where, that you have that advantage to stop and let your child out, while traffic stops, but there are, I've gone up there and have viewed it and talked to a few parents, so. But I'll look into the safe routes and see what their guidelines are for their grants.
And maybe is it okay if I reach out to
Of
you,
course,
Sergeant?
absolutely,
And then,
yeah.
because I don't know like the amount of money that we're talking,
Mhm.
but I work in a school in Springfield, and we've had safety walking audits
Yep.
for big transitions at least 3 times now.
Mhm.
So I'm just trying
Yeah,
to think
absolutely,
like if
yeah.
money's the only.
I always express that to any resident, I'm not out there all the time, so I encourage anybody to call me with any type of safety or questions, traffic questions, so.
Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome, yeah.
Bronwyn?
Thank you for presenting to us tonight. I appreciate it. I just had 2 questions. One of them is, how many students are required to live in a certain area so that a crossing guard is warranted?
I don't think it's the amount of students, it's the amount of kids that are actually crossing
Okay.
that area. And we don't have a fixed number for that. It's just, I think as time has gone on, with crossing posts, and you've seen kids graduate and move out and their parents still live there, and there's no kids crossing, they've eliminated posts over the years. But there is no, I look at it as 1 kid is just as important as 10 kids as crossing. So
I know that last year someone in the neighborhood over near, like kids who go to Blueberry and Glenbrook,
Mhm.
I think had met with you
Yep.
about, so basically, the kids going to Glenbrook especially have to go out either like Academy or Brooks.
Yeah, I worked with Mr. Mazzo regarding
Right.
that.
So when you were there just wasn't enough kids crossing?
Well, I think I had 3 kids, and I was told there was about 30 kids crossing over there. And I spent a week there every day, morning and afternoon, and
Right.
I probably had about 15 plus parents would drive up to me every day and said, "Tomorrow I'll cross."
Mhm.
And I said, "Okay." And every day I had the same 3 kids that were on their bikes crossing, And every
Right.
day I had the same amount of parents that would pull up in their cars and tell me, tomorrow they'll cross. And Mr. Mazza and I got together and we looked at the map globally and we said, besides those 3 kids that are crossing, the rest of those parents can take the side roads to William Street and get to Frank Smith. It was the exact same distance walking as if they were going to cross over Brooks onto Frank Smith to get to the intersection of Frank Smith and Redfern. So we looked at that and we said it's the same walking distance, taking the side roads down to Williams, and you're on the sidewalk, and then you're at the same location.
Right.
So that was something that we had looked at. So.
And so I'm actually wondering about the students who are going to Glenbrook.
Mhm.
And I realize you're looking at putting a crossing guard in at Wolf Swamp and Frank Smith, which I
Yep.
think is great. But that means that kids would have to go either there or all the way down to Redfern. Otherwise, they're crossing at, I think there's a crosswalk at Revere.
I'd have to
Not a
look at-
crossing guard, but a crosswalk.
Okay.
Which I'm sure is on the list to be painted. And then there's the crosswalk at Brooks as well, but that's
Mhm.
a crazy area
Yep.
without a crossing
I,
guard.
for right now, I put a sign, I put one of the middle signs up to put more visibility to that crosswalk.
Yeah,
So I added a
I
sign
think
on.
that's helpful.
So,
But I just didn't know if that was something that you could look at again for the
Mhm.
students going to Glenbrook, just because some of them are cutting down Academy. It's not paved, but that, like over near the water tower,
Yep.
that dirt road there. And it's kind of overgrown, and they're kind of looking, and it's a little bit nerve-wracking, I
Okay.
think. And I don't know that it's a ton of kids. And I don't know if more would walk or ride their bikes if they knew there was a crossing guard.
mhm.
But I've seen some going on Revere, some on Academy, and some on Brooks.
Okay.
So I just didn't know if there was maybe one spot, if they were all going to, that would be
Okay.
possibly be helpful. But something to look into when you have a
Yeah,
chance.
oh, absolutely, yep.
And the second question I had is, you mentioned the shops. I do
Yep.
get concerned about that. A lot of it is the people who are traveling behind, like say a car in front of you stops as they see a kid who's coming along.
Mhm.
Like, I've seen some pretty close calls where the people behind them aren't noticing that the person in front of them might be from Long Meadow, and they stop.
Mhm.
And, I mean, fortunately, it's, not happened where they haven't stopped, but it's a pretty close call. And I know you have those, I'm not sure what they're called, like in the middle, those
The
signs.
targets?
Oh, the
Breakaway signs, yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
crosswalk bounce back signs, yeah.
Right.
I saw him replacing them today, so that's why.
So that's been on our radar for a while. Both of those, the crosswalk in between Big Y and Williams Place Mall, and the crosswalk in between Big Y and the shops. And
Right.
when we do our pedestrian enforcement over there, so one of the things we do is we send out a decoy, which is a police officer in plain clothes, and it's his job to cross the road, put his life in his hands, and we've seen the exact same thing. One car will stop, and another car, the person's in front of that car doesn't see them.
Right.
I mean, common sense should be, why is that car stopped at the crosswalk?
Right.
But it's not, and they go over. So one of the plans that we've come up with DPW is, as cars come in, bring that down to one lane where the crosswalk is, so it's only
Right.
one lane of traffic.
Yeah.
And then after the crosswalk, it would open up so cars can turn left or right into whatever parking lot they're looking at. And then one of the other, so it's more of a low-cost thing, is I'm not sure if Northampton has them, I know East Hampton has them, Chicopee has them, is the pedestrian crosswalk flags. So as you're crossing, you have a flag, and you're waving that flag, so it brings
Oh.
more visibility to you crossing, and then when you get back to the other side of the crosswalk, you're supposed to put it into the bucket on the other side.
That's a good idea.
So some of the questions that have come up that I'm still trying to research, this has only been about the last month and a half I've looked into this, is who's gonna pay for the missing flags? Who's gonna put the flags when they're all in one bucket, back over to the other bucket? So I've called some communities, I know East Hampton, their issue over there is just, it's every single crosswalk has them, and it wasn't something the town did, it was a grassroots effort
Right.
from somebody in the community, so,
I found, I've heard the head officers in the past talk to me about the importance of mixing it up the way you're describing, and then you get that sort of that sign fatigue where, you know, if the same sign is in the same place, and people just start to ignore it after a little while. So I think LPD does a nice job of throwing us some vehicular curveballs every once in a while, and to slow us down and to make us pay attention, and whether it's you know, human presence or new signage or blinking signs or the bounce back signs. They do a nice job of it, and I think certainly if anybody watching at home, if there's anything you want us to take a look at, any issues that you have concerns about, be in touch with Carl, myself, Mr. Mazza. We work pretty closely on all these things. So, but trying to balance a lot of competing needs, I'd say, but we definitely want to pay attention to any of those.
So I know I said this could go on forever, and it could. So I'm going to bring it to a close now. For the members, if you have any more concerns or if you get any questions from the community, I think Marty just pointed out, get in contact with him or Sergeant Mazzaferro or Tom and bring those issues. I can guarantee you they will be looked at. Marty put up a roundy round earlier with the town and the police department and the schools. And I think the one thing that's missing there for me is the fire department as well, but that wasn't for tonight.
Yep.
But it makes a great circle. I can tell you unequivocally, we have the finest police department and public works and fire department. I can't say enough about my time as chair here. The support that I've seen from Chief Stankiewicz, from Chief Dearborn, and from Mario. So it definitely something to be proud of. Officer Mazzaferro, thank you very much. The presentation you did for Blueberry is almost exactly what we heard tonight. Glad that everybody that wants to hear it can hear this message about how we're looking out for the safety of the children and the support that's behind the schools because of the officers out there in the field like you. So I really appreciate it, and thank you.
And just in closing, and I think I said this in Blueberry, and when I do go to these Safe Routes programs out east, I have communities like Wellesley and Newton coming to me and asking, how do you get all your entities to buy in to the Safe Routes program? We were fortunate that we have a buy-in from the police department, the DPW, and the schools, and I just said it's we're unique in that we all work together as a team, and we have I have great support from our town manager and the police chief and DPW. So it's a lot of credit to the school committee that we have the support. So thank you. So thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Well,
Dr. O'Shea?
Sure, I'll be brief. Chairman Ray mentioned the Student Opportunity Act, so we're excited. I think it is not an exaggeration to call that a landmark, once-in-a-generation piece of legislation. I think it deserves our strict attention, and we'll see how the funding stream plays out in FY21. Mr. Mazza signaled to me that the governor may be signing that imminently, tomorrow. So that's great news. The Kaleidoscope Collective pilot program, so we submitted an application to join that pilot program. It's a DESE-sponsored pilot program. Just before the meeting, I did get word that they had an overwhelming number of applicants and that we weren't accepted into cohort 1. Perhaps we'll be accepted into a future cohort. But I will say, I want to share that application with the committee because I think it articulates a vision for introducing sort of STEAM-based deeper learning practices at the middle school and perhaps leveraging the makerspace mindset and the makerspace technologies that we've seen with great success. So I think there's certainly a lot of interest for kids to be involved in inquiry-based, hands-on science activities. We saw it with the robotics program earlier, where we're up to I think 80 students in the K-8 range who have a really strong interest in that field alone. So I'll share that application with you, and hopefully it gives you a sense of where we think we can go in terms of STEAM-based programming at the middle level and perhaps other levels. Tax Ceiling Task Force met on Thursday, December 14th, and as Chairman Ray mentioned earlier, the representative, Ash's office, Senator Lesser's office, they're becoming very actively involved in that task force, and they have even drafted, shown us a rough draft of some legislation that perhaps would help Long Meadow address the tax ceiling, the $25 levy limit. So we'll keep you posted on that. Next meeting, I think, is in early December sometime, December 17th, actually, 7 o'clock. Fall sports wrapped up, and, well, actually, we still have a football game still to be played against East Long Meadow on Thanksgiving Day, but again, kudos to all the teams that were really successful this year, but especially the boys soccer team, which, what a talented, tough team. Those types of teams don't come along too often, and we're really proud of how they handled themselves as good sports and as tough competitors, and they really blew through the competition at the state level. You just don't see that too often. I mean, 4-0 in the state semis and then 2-zip in the state finals. Remarkable team, remarkable accomplishment. So I hope you'll see soon a sort of a new community engagement newsletter. Diana and I had an opportunity to participate in a webinar hosted by School Messenger, which that's the application that we use for our email blasts, and so they have a module that will allow for sort of easy drag and drop type of newsletter capability. So we'll keep you posted on that. I think it'll be informative and hopefully appealing to everyone. We've talked about sort of work-based learning, and it's something that where there's a growing interest in. I think it's a growth area for us as a district. Went over to Western New England University last week to see the students engage in a career exploration field trip. So thanks to the Williams educators who pulled that together, and thanks to Western New England for opening its doors to our students. They really committed quite a bit of staff time to it. And the kids had a chance to hear from professors in, a whole bunch of different fields. And it's something that I think it's a good model for us in terms of giving kids that career awareness experience, which is an important part of that career education continuum that I think we should pay more and more attention to. So that's all I got. Happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Any questions?
Thank
Seeing
you.
none. Tom?
Sure. So in your packet is the FY21 budget instructions and timeline. I don't think it's really any new information that hasn't been presented earlier in regards to the instructions and the proposed increase for new revenue. The dates on the budget timeline are flexible regarding the schools. We usually submit it to the town officially by the Friday before February vacation. We'll need to hold a public hearing regarding the budget at some time, probably in early February. And Finance Sub will be, at our next meeting, will be putting together probably a more concrete timeline in terms of when we'll present it to school committee and tentative dates for a public hearing. Also, we got word in regards to the millwork that was damaged in the science room when there was the water leak last spring. They're scheduled to be delivered next week, starting on Wednesday, with installation to follow right after delivery. We anticipate it'll take at least 2 or 3 days, so it'll continue into the weekend. I just heard today that there's SATs on Saturday, so we'll probably have to delay it till after hours, sometime mid-afternoon, before the work can begin or continue in terms of the installation. So hopefully it'll be done and completed before that following Monday. With the flu season coming upon us, we've asked the custodians to implement a regular cleaning of those surfaces where are touched often and frequently by students and staff to try to cut down on sharing of viruses that nobody really wants. So, to do it throughout the day and in the evening to just clean any of those surfaces, doorknobs, drinking fountain, faucets, and so on. Today and tomorrow, we have an audit going on of our federal grants. It's usually done annually. This year, they're looking at our IDA grant and our special ed early childhood grant. They're also viewing the lunch service while they're here. Once we receive the report, we'll bring it through finance then to school committee. And then food service advisory will be meeting on Tuesday, December 3rd at 11:30 at the high school. And then the safety committee meeting is that Friday, December 6th. I think it's 9 o'clock. So I'll report out after those meetings.
Are those open or are those?
Food service, we'd love anybody who has any participation that they would like to come. So we actually experience lunch at the high school to see what the students are offered and what they eat. And then we meet after the lunch service. So we start at 11:30 for the last lunch and meet around 12 while we're eating lunch. The safety is not. It's a group of public safety and DPW and school representatives.
Can I just underscore one thing on the budget timeline that Tom mentioned? I think you'll note in the memo that we received from Jay Moynihan, the interim town manager, he noted that the select board had asked that departments use a 1.75% increase, that they're looking at that in terms of the allowable tax levy that could go up to 2.5%. I think we'll just want to understand how that will shape our budget potentially, and whether that happens through finance sub or, I know Tom's starting to pull together the projections as well, so.
Yeah, and I would just, I guess, caution, I don't know, caution is the right word, but just put everybody on notice that as we get into the budget season, we could have some last minute meetings called. We could need many additional finance subcommittee meetings. So if that happens, it's not unusual. Tom does a great job, but he also needs the advice and consent of the school committee as well. So we may have to do last minute. We might have to go late sometimes. I just want to make sure everybody is prepared for what may be needed for the budget season. It may not be, but I just want to make sure we're all on notice of, what may occur. Sue?
I did a little chart for us tonight to talk about curriculum happenings, and you've heard about some of these things before, maybe most of them, but there's a lot of curriculum work happening at the moment. I don't want to go through every little thing for you, but ELA, pretty much K through middle school, is being revised in some way, shape, or form. Math in 7th and 8th grade are looking to revise their scope and sequence relative to the new framework revision that came out a couple of years ago, and they are hoping to adopt a new textbook, so that would be a fiscal reminder that at the end of the year, I think we're talking about end of year funds for this, correct, Tom? Most of these purchases, if available, for math, and they are all looking at open source before you ask. Thank you. Specifically in math. Math pre-calc honors at the high school is looking for some new text. Their text is really old and they would like it to align better with the new frameworks as well. The applied topics in comp sci, intro to engineering, and robotics are 3 courses that the high school is looking at to start. They have a whole process that they go through at the high school before it hits you as school committee. So they vet it through a group. Are you on that group at all? No? When they bring the new courses?
But actually, I took a poll for one of these.
Okay. So they go and they present, and then they get advice, they go back, and they come back and present. It's kind of like, I think, The Voice or something like that. So if you make the final cut, and I think we're hoping that they all make the final cut, then they'll come to you with a new course proposal for sure. But that's in the process right now, and all of those new courses at the high school will take some sort of curriculum and curriculum materials to get up and running. And our internship, experiential learning, work-based learning, that is off to start this year, and we're hoping to increase that next year, but letting you know there maybe some costs that go along with that, depending on how we run it, thinking about what's best practice and what that looks like for our students here in Longmeadow, and how much really support we need on the ground here for that. Marty talked a bit about the kaleidoscope. Well, no, I'm sad about that, but we really had a really cool vision for bringing the maker mindset into the middle schools a little more than we already do even, and we had hoped that they were going to give us some funding for that, but thought still we would look for implementing at least part of that program next year, maker mindset at the middle school. So that's kind of the curriculum happenings. We have a ton of PD going on. Our curriculum leaders had a PD in demystifying curriculum, kind of curriculum writing 101, and our administrators are all having it in a couple of weeks, the same exact PD, just to kind of get on the same page as far as curriculum writing is concerned. We have a big PD for our response to intervention, kind of making sure that we're aligned in all of our interventions across the board, at elementary and middle in particular. So that will be ongoing PD that will last probably the year. Let's see, we've had PD in standards-based education. I won't read all of these to you, but really we're kind of looking for PD this year that tackles kind of deeper learning concepts and things like that we're interested in going for. So that's great. And we're always looking for PD in content areas for those folks that don't always get good content PD, art teachers, music teachers, PE teachers. So we are on the lookout for that for sure. We had our first semester of professional growth courses. Those are courses taught by teachers for educators. Our teachers participate, our parents can participate if they want to, and there's a chance for them to climb up the salary scale with that. And first semester we had 13 courses and 112 staff go through. And next semester, I think the courses are starting pretty soon, January, I think, January 14th. We have 87 staff signed up so far. It's getting super popular. We have actually a release date. It's like a concert ticket. And so we say when we're going to release it, we let the release go, and we have some courses that fill up within minutes, not even a minute. So I don't know, we're doing something right there, and it's awesome. Our elementary standards-based report card group continues to meet. We're continuing to refine the report card itself. In the area of science, we're looking at the standards, trying to pick the standards that really best reflect what we want the students to know, to report on the report card at least. And we are planning to align what we're calling the learner behaviors with the CASEL framework. So you'll see probably the CASEL frameworks right on the elementary report card, the competencies of the CASEL. And we are looking at also refining the summary sheets or the cover sheets. If you have an elementary student, you might see some sheets coming home on top of their work that explains what standard they're working on, if they're meeting or they're not quite meeting the standard. So we're looking at some kind of refinement of those, because that's a lot of work for elementary teachers. We have a K-12 music review going on. There were some recommendations that came out of that review preliminarily. So we're going to do some talking to the music teachers to see if we can make some quick adjustments to make life easier for some of the music teachers that are running all over the district in order to try to reach everybody. So that would be cool. And after 7 o'clock at 7, just on FYI, there's a close community meeting. I think it's in A12 off the street, the sector rep meeting, if anyone's interested in popping in there after. So.
Nice. Any questions for Sue, Tom, or Dr. O'Shea? Thanks for the report. So last week we created an ad hoc subcommittee, the curriculum subcommittee. So I would just remind that it is not a permanent committee of the school committee. It is a ad hoc, potentially temporary, to address temporary issues. If the committee sees fit that they think it should become permanent, we would revisit that probably 6 months to a year, just to check in and see what is going on, how effective it's been, and the use of the time. I know time was some things that some people had concern with on establishing an ad hoc committee. So as the chair, I guess I recommend members to the committees, which I'm going to do, and see if the board has any issues with those recommendations. And then if not, then we'll go with the board, which I think, I tried to find a happy medium here. So what I'm proposing is that the ad hoc curriculum subcommittee would be by Kevin, Susie, and Gianna. Kevin and Susie would come off of policy subcommittee. Myself and Bronwyn would take their places on the policy subcommittee. So that's my,
Is Gianna, you staying on policy?
Policy.
yes, I haven't taken her off of policy yet. I mean, if she wants to come off, it's up to her, but.
No,
Oh, yeah. All right. So, any thoughts, or is everybody good with that?
I think that's great.
We just need consent? Yep.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So, we got that. You got the assignments, Diane?
Yep.
All right, great. Yes. Oh, sorry, did skip that one. Administrative reports, LPVEC. Do we have a report?
We had a meeting. Bronwyn's meeting was longer than mine. We had an audit of LPVC. I have the pleasure of being on the one that meets less frequently and then leaves earlier because we didn't have a quorum to vote, which was beneficial. The audit was very positive. There were no questions added to it. I don't know how the rest of your meeting went, Bronwyn, but the audit company said that basically that the LPVC was doing a good job with its budget. That's really what it comes down to.
Yes.
Did you have more afterwards?
Not in regards to that. We were talking just about, we just got some reports on some transportation updates, which is a pretty big deal over there with all the communities involved. And just some reports from the Director of Finance. But the audit did go really, really well, they said, so that was great.
Nice. Did you have an energy and sustainability update?
No, the last meeting was during our school committee meeting.
Oh, okay. Great. Sorry. All right, so moving on to new business. Dr. Shea sent around an email to me asking for school committee support in regards to improvements to be made at the varsity softball field, which is across the street at Russell. And he would like the school committee to offer a letter of support to the application. So do you want to speak to that? I mean, you sent around your cover letter earlier. Does anybody have any questions, or would you like to speak to it?
I need to fill in the financial part just because I didn't have that when I sent the thing over to you. So now I have the update. So if people have been to Turner, you have an idea of what we're trying to do, except without all of the fencing, because we're not going to put up a home run fence on Russell, and there's no way that's going to happen, right? So it's really just the part of Turner that is dugouts and then fencing behind and bleachers. Because if you go to the Russell field right now, if you've ever taken a look at that softball field, there's massive gaps in the fence between, and like dugouts needs to go in quotes, because like it's not a dugout, it's a fence and like a bleacher. So it's really not, it's embarrassing that that's our varsity softball field. So with the grant that we're going to put in, we will get 2 new dugouts. That'll cost $25,000. The improved fencing will close the gaps, probably make it a little higher. There definitely are people who do not like that balls fly onto the street and into their yard. I don't think we can cut that down entirely, but it'll help. So the fencing will cost between $15,000 and $20,000. And then the bleachers will cost $7,000 for 2 bleachers, one on the home side, one on the away side. So if you total all that up, it's somewhere around $45,000 to $50,000. We'll cost share that, because if you remember, the committee put in $10,000 last year, so we're hoping to get about $35,000 from the community preservation grant, and then the $10,000 we already got from the school. So that's what it looks like.
Awesome.
Great.
Does anybody have any questions for Kevin?
Thank you for doing all that, Kevin.
Thanks.
Yeah, and again, there's a lot of people in the LSA who are putting in a lot of work to do this, so I'm just speaking on their behalf.
If there isn't, then there's a motion.
I move that the school committee support the Community Preservation Commission application submitted by Dr. Kevin Shea to improve the varsity softball field, including a new backstop and dugout installation.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion, second. Discussion?
Yeah, Kevin, I missed it. Did you say you were going to add in, so do we have to vote on it with the amendment of the financial numbers in here?
I think the motion stands on itself for the support.
So, but are we supporting this actual letter, I guess is my question, because,
I don't think we're supporting any letter. We're supporting his application to the CPC.
The way that these grants usually go is I'll write a cover letter as the LSA president, all the quotes for the work will be attached, and then there'll be a bunch of letters of support. So we're getting a letter of support from Barry Jarvis from Park and Rec, Mike Capitasto as the athletic director, Jill Stockley as a former participant in the program. So people like that are going to write letters of support, and I'm hoping that Armin, as the chair of the school committee, will just write a letter of support, essentially saying, we think this is a good project. The school committee is in favor of this work happening on a school field, that sort of thing.
okay, so this was just for our information.
Just so that you have some idea of what's
Got it.
going on.
Okay,
Yeah, so
thank you for that.
A formal application will go to the CPC. You guys will do a presentation in front of the CPC, and then Steve and his crew will determine whether that's something they support or not.
Okay.
So they may cut down the funds, or
Right,
they may
absolutely.
increase them, and then you'll just have to do something
Right.
else.
Okay, thank you for
But
that.
no. Anything else? Anybody
Yeah,
else?
just a
No.
quick question on this. Does Mike Copcott, do we have a list of needs from our athletic department that we regularly, because we didn't go over that last week whenever he was here. Do we have, is this part of the needs of the athletic department? I haven't seen this on any list, and do we have other needs too that, like, do we have a prioritized list, I guess is what I'm trying to get a feel for.
Because you're going to need that, because of the open
Yeah,
spaces meeting.
because I just had a 2-hour meeting today. This isn't on the list, and this honestly isn't even like close to the list that they're talking about. So this is like a tiny little thing, but it seems like everybody's grabbing from the same pot with no prioritized list, because the CPC was there as well. So does Mike have a set list of like what are our priorities? Not that I'm against, I'm just saying, like, it seems a little disjointed. I'd rather have him like go, okay, softball, big issue, you know, the football field looks okay, you know, whatever his, I don't know what it is, but does he have like a capital improvement list of his own? I know this wouldn't be something that would probably make it onto that list to go to the town, but within here, at least so we all know what's priorities from Mike. We might want to get that.
Yeah, I don't know that there exists a prioritize. I think there's a number of issues
Yeah.
or challenges that we have. I believe with the softball field over at Russell, it's the only field now left without dugouts and the fencing, the protective fencing and the backstop. Now that Turner's been done, the boys baseball diamond has dugouts covered, fencing. So I do believe he's fully supportive of the request. In terms of an overview of all of the various needs, you know, he and I talk around capital, but that is more equipment based than I think field condition based. So really, I think would depend on the nature of what the request is about.
Yeah.
So-
And I think that we even want to make it a little bit more broad. I brought Mike just specifically because we were talking high school, talking kind of a broad look at all the fields that we use as a school district and go, what are we using, what are we not using, and what are the priorities, what are not. I have no idea what they are. I just know we have a bunch of fields, and I don't know who uses what on a daily basis, from PE to T. I don't know. But I think it would be something that would be very important for us to have to go, you know, this would probably be real important because it would be really beneficial to a whole bunch of students, just like this is going to be very beneficial as well. But within this open space, if we don't have a prioritized list, we're not going to be able to help them through their process. And Mike was just an example I was using. I'm just talking in general. You know, this obviously is probably a pretty big issue for Mike because it isn't. I mean, it's a pretty lackluster softball field for a high school team. But I think we might want to just look at it as a whole as what we want to prioritize. Is they're going to come back to that eventually within the overall community as to how we fit into the plan.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Jamie. I think the one thing I struggle with is where is it, like for Mike, is it about equipment? Is it about uniforms, transportation more so than field inventory, right? Because do we even own the field, or is that the town's field? And I think I shouldn't say I think, I know what we have in town is a lack of a coordinated plan amongst all parties about how we're going to utilize fields. I mean, Turner's a prime example, and that was my concern as well. Is like, baseball already had 2 fields that had fences on it that couldn't be used for any other purposes, and all of a sudden we have Turner, an open space, and we put up fences, permanent fences, and now it can't be used for anything else except for a little portion in the back that can only be used for 6, 7, and 8-year-olds. So, like, there needs to be a better coordination of looking at, you've got lacrosse and soccer together, which is like 1,100 athletes versus 400 on other sports. And I just think the town needs to come up with a better plan overall on field inventory and utilization and permanent structures and how that affects everybody in town. Because, again, you were just using Mike as an example.
Yeah, just
but,
an example.
Yeah.
His isn't, he obviously, there's some very nice high school fields and high school facilities. That's great. And this obviously is a good opportunity to improve upon as well. But I think eventually the town is going to be coming to us asking for that, but also they're going to be coming to us asking to use our facilities, within our schools.
Right.
I mean, it's coming. So it's a matter of how we prioritize how to get those up to par or whether they're not. So I think it's just a good discussion, or at least good ranking to have before get ahead of the months ahead of them, as opposed to waiting until that point.
To your point, Jamie, I think this is something that needs to happen, and individual sports have been talking about it for a while, but we need to meet as a youth sports council. That's the only way this stuff's going to happen. One good example is if you think about the Glenbrook fields. Tons of sports use the Glenbrook fields. We just discovered that there was an active irrigation system there, and nobody knew it was there until the DPW went and looked around and found it. But it's not useful because the pipes are broken and all this stuff, right? So we need to find money to get that. I know that's going to come up on a town meeting warrant and all that stuff, but that really speaks to this issue that right now it's not actually a field, it's just they mow weeds, right? And so if we had irrigation, we could actually have a good field. And when you talk to the principals of all the schools, like, they would love if there was irrigation on their field so that the kids in the schools could go out and use the fields instead of running around in mud and dirt. So, I think that everybody from the youth sports to us to the high school athletic director, everybody wants to improve these things, and we have to talk together to make these things work. Absolutely.
Great point. All right. I'm my zeal to get to the ongoing business. I skipped over Armin. Do you have a report, Armin? Or
We didn't vote. There's a motion.
We didn't vote.
No, hold on a second. Yeah. All right. More zeal.
Hold on, Armin.
Hold on, Armin.
Okay.
All right. Any more conversation on this?
Made a motion.
Okay. Motion seconded. Any further conversation? None. Call for vote. All in favor? Unanimous. Thanks.
I abstained.
Nope.
Oh, 1 abstention. Sorry. Appropriately so. Thank you. Good luck with that, though. Nice job.
Thank you.
Okay, Armin. Sorry.
Nothing really to add other than based on what Sergeant Mazzaferro said about the high cost to cut the granite. I think we're just going to look into some more cost-effective solutions that don't include that component of the plan. So I think that's what we're going to be doing going forward.
Okay. And I know some people, Armin, have talked about maybe putting another cutout, to the parking lot, so the people who are coming into the parking lot don't have to go in there. So I'm just putting that out there for you guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I plan to reach out to Sergeant, so I don't know how that works at some point I'm sure that I'll be connecting with you and the Sergeant, because I think if it is just a expenses issue versus safety, then I'll want to follow up with him, and that means I'll follow up with you.
Okay.
All right. I don't have a report. Good. So I'd entertain a motion.
I move that the school committee adjourn the November 25th, 2019 school committee meeting.
Motion second.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor? Good evening. Thank you.
I gave that last one to Shay. What did you have? Who said it first? You, Diane? Second in that last one.
Brother.
You gave it a... Who did? closer to him, you're closer to her, that's why. Diane wins.
Or you can just drop your kids off in the admin lot in the morning.
What was I doing last year? I was here.
I guess it's because of the calendar.